the hardest part is just getting started. So I don't think I've necessarily had writer's block, but I've definitely had the fear of the blank page block.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by the GoingNorthPodcast.com shop. It is going to help you have northbound direction to your own success. If you want a great inspirational quote like advance others to advance yourself, or today a reader, tomorrow a leader, heck, even some puns like pile on and always fully booked on your tote bag, mug, hoodie, heck, even a t-shirt, and many, many other items, head over to GoingNorthPodcast.com, click on the shop tab, and cop yourself some merchandise indeed. And that's GoingNorthPodcast.com/shop. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. That's right, indeed. It's cooler than I'd say. You know what? Let's go with 25 cucumbers. And probably folks are probably like, 25 cucumbers? I thought the joke was too dumb. Why is it 25? Because today's freaking guest, she's a fellow Virgo, y'all. That's right, indeed. We're like birthday buddies, we're like a week apart, indeed. And on top of that, she's a lovely mother, a wonderful wife, as well as an exercise enthusiast. And in a past life, which was probably like 2 days ago, basically, it's a strategic communications consultant. So let's give it up for the stupendous and kind, the one, the only Stephanie, or should I say Steph Katzovi. How you doing today, Steph?
I'm doing great, Dom. How are you? We're already off to a great start, right?
Yeah, that's right indeed. We're off to a great start.
I think we're still on our birthday highs, right? You were just last week, a couple weeks ago, and then I was at the end of August. So lots of great birthday memories, hopefully, that you had. I know I did.
Oh, heck yeah, that's right indeed. Heard you're making everybody say meow.
The play on the word cat of my name, but with a C instead of a K.
That's right indeed, because she's a cool cat with a K. One of those kind cats, right indeed. One of those special K kind of cats.
I can't believe you've come up with so many nicknames in the short span that we've been talking.
Well, hey, sir, indeed, it's the danger zone for a reason. There's no escape now. You thought this was a podcast interview.
I did, but I'll go wherever this takes us.
Don't worry. He'll just take us in the middle of the woods with a bunch of fairies and they sing show tunes, and then you wake up delusional thinking you missed the bus and it's only Sunday afternoon. So don't worry. It's all good. It's all
As
good.
long as my kids get dinner, that's fine.
Only if they eat their meat, then they'll have their pudding. So my goodness, as with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 77,000 years long, and I probably forgot, I don't know, 76,000 plus years of content. So my goodness, am I filling in any cavities I may have missed about your stuff?
You got, I think, all the big ones. Yeah, I'm a writer, a mother of two school-age boys, and wife to a wonderful husband who is the extrovert to my introvert. Believe it or not, I'd say I'm naturally quiet and reserved, but I am known for having a good sense of humor, and not to brag, but I was voted class clown and best sense of humor in both 8th and 12th grades. Using that to my advantage, I think that had me laughing through law school, where I spent the bulk of my career as a professional writer and speechwriter, having worked in corporate communications for many, many years. And now I would consider myself incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to live my childhood dream of being an author, while also having the opportunity to raise my kids and be around for all the amazing moments that happen that are unscripted and unplanned.
Yeah, that's right, indeed. It's a class clown in both 8th and 12th grade. You're probably like, oh, I'm finally going to leave this godforsaken place. Yeah.
No, I loved high school. Well, I loved many parts of high school. I wouldn't say, adolescence was a breeze by any stretch, but I think it gave me a lot of material for the books that I'm writing now, where I dive into the minds and lives of kids. And, I like to think of myself as a kid at heart. I think in my mind's eye, I'm still the 13-year-old awkward, gangly, girl with glasses that had that bad haircut. But, given all those life experiences, I think these are the things that make you want to write, that make you want to tell your story, that make you want to connect with other people that hopefully have similar experiences and can relate to what you're talking about. And doing it with a sense of humor to bring a laugh or a smile to someone's face is always a good thing, I think. We live in a crazy world, and so it's nice to be able to reset, how you think of things, and shape perspectives through hopefully enjoyable quality literature.
Quality literature, indeed. That's right, indeed. And the beautiful thing is that you actually spoke it into existence in the third grade. It's like, I'm going to be an author one day. Dang gummit. That's right, indeed. And she finally made it happen. So what led you to go the route of, well, then again, now to think about it, you probably already answered the question away, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So my goodness. So what led you to choose children's literature as your genre choice for writing the magical books?
Well, I think as I said, I'm a child at heart, but I think the other side of this, which I didn't answer, is I really relate to kids at the level that I think 8 to 12-year-old kids are at. That's the middle grade genre. And I don't know what it is about this age group, but I think it's right when they're on the cusp of becoming teenagers and they have a lot of opinions about everything. I think 8 to 12-year-olds are still open to hearing different perspectives and appreciating that not everything is the way they say it is. And I have a 13-year-old son who's an amazing kid, and I'm seeing now the glimpses of how he's asserting his independence and pushing boundaries in appropriate ways, frankly. But I think that step right below the 8 to 12-year-old range is, I think, a very impressionable age where you're just starting to figure out who you are and your own identity. And so I think I like to write for this age group because my sense of my purpose for writing is that I want to shake the world in a gentle way, to borrow a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. And, I want to promote positive values and confidence and kindness to inspire kids to be their best selves. And, the age that kids are at when they're reading my books are ages where they're really discovering what's important to them and who they want to be. And so if I can help influence that in some small way, I will consider myself doing good in the world in small ways and hopefully eventually leading to bigger and better ways.
You go, taking them from cat ears to bunny ears. I like it. That's right,
Hmm.
indeed. Help get taller. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. They're like, yeah, you ain't gonna be short, you're gonna be tall, you're gonna be hopping. That's right,
That's
indeed.
right.
Yeah, because yeah, definitely middle school years, it's resting years indeed, where things start going in certain directions and it really starts to kick into high gear for some folks. It's like, oh yeah, good old puberty. It's like, yay,
Yeah.
this discoveries, other
Well, I
things.
mean, there's a lot that happens between the ages of 0 and 18. If you think about it, you go from a baby to a fully formed human that's walking and talking to kids with the ability to be independent and doing things for themselves. And then before you know it, they're done with high school and out of the house in some cases, maybe not in others. But 0 to 18, there's a lot going on. And then, that's the adolescence period. And it's a relatively short period of time in the grand scheme of things. So if you're lucky to live into your 70s or longer, you got another 50 or so years as an adult. And you got to think about where you can make the most impact on somebody. And so for me, I've kind of honed in on that earlier years, where kids can read chapter books and really have an opportunity to internalize and think about issues that are things they know to happen to them, to their friends, in their world. And I really enjoy having that perspective that I can share because I'm not in my 0 to 18 years by any stretch of the imagination. And, any wisdom that I can share to help people have a more positive childhood, the better I think kids can be.
I don't know. If you look at 18 backwards, or if you're dyslexic, that'll be 81. So I think you're getting there.
Or you could add it up, you're 9.
There you go. That's right, indeed.
Double checking my math on that, by the way. I definitely liked English more in high school than I did math, but I see the tremendous value that math has, especially now that I'm older, and wish I liked it and enjoyed it more.
Yeah, it's okay. It's still probably bad off with Common Core and everything else they've added to it. So you're all good.
I survived counting on my fingers, so yeah.
So my goodness, my goodness. So speaking of loving English, you actually became a speech writer because of your wonderful past life of getting your wonderful law degree that you decided to put on
Yes.
the shelf.
I did. But it was still a form of writing. So that's what I keep going back to. I view everything that I did before I started writing books as the training for what would eventually become my creative existence. But, I'm a really practical person, as Virgos often are. So when I was in college, I was trying to figure out what do I want to do with my life. I had a double major of pre-law and English because I love English, and anything that involves writing and literature, I'm going to be the first to sign up. So as I'm thinking about what I wanted to do after I graduated, I said, I'm not ready to go into the real world and get a job. And, I don't even know what job I would even try to get. So I said, all right, I'll go to graduate school or business school or law school. And after hemming and hawing, I knew medical school was for sure not on the table because I don't like the sight of blood, and stitches make me very uncomfortable. So that wasn't never an option in my world. But as I thought about grad school and business school, I was like, oh, I'm not really sure what you do in those kind of environments. And I really like working on my own. So maybe business school isn't for me. In grad school, you really have to know what you want to do. And I really don't know what I want to do. So maybe I'll try law school. It's only 3 years. How bad could it be?
Yep.
and and I didn't realize how rigorous law school actually was. And it was a very, very big challenge. I have to admit, I didn't enjoy it. What I enjoyed was legal writing and legal research. Those were my two favorite classes, and criminal procedure, which it's a really fascinating, it's kind of like a horror story, but unfortunately a lot of real life examples of laws and different issues. And, I can't put it more delicately that this is certainly nothing light by any stretch of the imagination, but the stories that were part of legal cases were fascinating. And so I was drawn to that from the writer element rather than the legal element. But, going through law school was, I think, the ultimate test of whether you can do something that's a real challenge and a real struggle and come out on the other side successful. And, I graduated, I passed the New York and Connecticut bars, although I would never, ever recommend anyone hiring me to be their attorney. But from that experience, I realized, what? If I work really hard and I apply myself, I can probably do just about anything. So when it was, post my professional career at Deloitte, I realized, all right, I'm going to live my childhood dream. I'm going to see if I can write the book that I've been dreaming about for so many years. And lo and behold, I did it. And I'm on to my second book, which will hopefully be coming out the spring of 2024. So, if anything, my background showed me that working hard and really putting in the effort and training yourself to be what you want to be can yield the results that you want. So I think that was a really long-winded answer from your question. So I apologize if I went a little overboard, but there were a lot of life lessons that came from that experience.
You're okay here. You need to apologize for talking. That's what the show's about. I want to hear about you and your story, because my goodness, indeed, so being able to take all that wonderful work ethic and being able to dodge real life and get into real life, and then having to be around the big kids, which are really what adults are, just big kids. Like, has any of your time in Deloitte as a wonderful communication expert, a speechwriter, played any part in your current role now with your wonderful books?
It actually has. I've learned, the from working as a speechwriter, this is it's a business. So working at Deloitte, you don't get to be creative in the traditional sense of here's a story I want to tell, but in crafting a speech, there are the same elements of telling a story in a fictional or creative sense as there is in a professional sense. And so, I spent 15 or so years honing those abilities and skills with real life feedback of whether or not something would work. So I would write for a very senior executive who had a very different demographic from my background. He was at the time in his 50s, and he was from New Jersey, and he was Italian American. So we had a little anecdotes from his childhood that involved meatballs and different cultural things that were amazing and wonderful and textured and rich, that I got to take and almost turn into, in a way, the stories of his life became sort of the creative fodder for how I would turn it into a professional speech with important business messages and narratives that would engage the audience of adults, to have them understand what he was trying to say, but do it in a way that would take them through a story in a way. So it was a really interesting exercise in building that narrative and plot, if you will, because speech is a certain amount of minutes, and you have to keep people engaged throughout the different parts of the speech. Much like a story, you can't just go from the start of the story to the message you want to tell. So you've got to build it up. You've got to create some action, create some tension, and it's a lot of the same elements go into writing a speech as there are in writing a story. So it was a really fantastic experience. I worked with some amazing people, and the friendships that came from that and the life experiences are invaluable. And everything I think you can apply to the next stages of your life from the lessons you've learned from the past. So a lot of great values came from that.
A lot of great value indeed. That's right. A lot of great value indeed. So my goodness, so you got this fabulous book, Hurricamp. My goodness, so is this going to be a whole series of Hurricamps, or is it going to be
Well,
just the
yeah,
first of many
there
nature-based stories?
the idea is to do at least three stories with the main characters. Hurricamp is the first one. The book that's coming out in the spring is called Miscommunicamp. So there's a theme here. And for book number three, which I am just thinking about what I want to write, I've kind of trapped myself in a corner because now I have to put camp in the title. So I have to figure out something that goes well with camp that I haven't already done. But I'll keep you posted on that. But it's a really fun time for me, just creatively, because the main character of Hurricamp, Miscommunicamp, and the something blank camp that's coming in a couple of years is the child version of me. Perhaps she's the better version of my childhood, but it's a great way for me to write, because it's a way for me to express myself, for me to sort of relive my past, but change the ending and make it a much better story than probably what actually happened. So, I am enjoying the process. I love sharing my book with others. I think one of the best parts about being a writer is meeting people that have read your book, especially children, and hearing what they have to say about it. And, one funny anecdote that I had was my son was in English class last year, and a young girl in his class did a book report on the summer book that she read, which was Hurricamp. And she said, "It's the best book I ever read." And someone in the class said, "Hey, isn't that your mom's book?" And my son said, "Oh, yeah, that is my mom's book." And then he forgot to tell me, which, would have been my crowning moment as an author, that someone did a book report on your book at school and loved it. And he forgot to tell me, but thankfully someone else in the class alerted their mom, and she said, "Hey, I heard that your book was a book report book." So it was really gratifying to hear that people are reading it, that they're loving it, that, the stories resonate. And it's just a wonderful feeling to know that, your work is being appreciated, and it's validating for me as an author to get that feedback, whether directly or indirectly.
That's what I'm talking about. Indeed. Crowning moment. That's right, indeed. A little one actually read the book from start to finish. She wrote a whole report and she loved it. That's a beautiful thing. That's right, indeed. Beautiful thing, indeed. 'Cause, hey, sometimes when those summer reads kick in, it's like, oh man, first page and then you just kaput.
Right. Well, see, that's another accomplishment. If someone reads your book and finishes it, that's an even better sign, because, if they don't finish it, you've not done all the work that you needed to do.
That's right. Or it's like, they don't know true art. That's right, they can't
Right.
appreciate it yet.
It's like a European story where it takes a very long time to get into the action and then it speeds up. That was probably how I wrote earlier on in my creative writing career. I think I provided a lot of detail on the characters and their backstory and their backstory to their backstory. And then as I'm reading my work out loud, I realized, oh, this is taking a very long time to get into the action. And I quickly learned that you need to keep things very fast paced, especially for children who, you need to loop them in pretty early on. Otherwise, you do lose them after the first page. So, number one is have a good cover. Number two is have a good story. Or maybe it's the other way around, but I haven't yet figured that out.
Yeah, gonna need both indeed, especially at story camp, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to write that down.
Yes, right
Maybe I'll
indeed.
just call it third story camp.
There you go.
Keep it simple.
Yes, right indeed. Keeping it campy. Yes, indeed. So right indeed, because they gotta definitely have both. Because it's like, hey, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but we still gonna do it anyway. It's gotta make you stop in the tracks. You could be
That's
looking for
true.
something else.
I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff out there. There's some not so great stuff too, but there's an amazing amount of literature at all ages and all genres. And a cover really is the first way to entice people to check out your stuff. And I'm lucky I have a really amazing illustrator that's helped out, and he does beautiful work, and we'll be working on Miss Camp and perhaps book number 3 camp. So it goes a long way, though. It definitely does.
There you go. That's right indeed. If anyone's listening and has an idea for Stephanie's third book idea title, feel free to shoot it to her. See if she likes it indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. As one of my mentors, John Maxwell, would say, you'll get credit, but not royalties.
Let's talk about it. Come up with something. Maybe my law degree can come in handy in that negotiation.
That's right indeed. She has a law degree. That's right indeed. It's ready to be dropped at a single moment.
It's so dusty, I don't know.
That just means bring class a case for emergency. It's okay.
Yeah,
That's right
that's
indeed.
true. That's true. It's got to be a really big emergency, though.
That's right indeed. If be on Judge Judy, it's game over. It's like, ah, darn.
I think you should call Judge Judy first before calling me.
Yeah, the call will be quicker too, probably. So my goodness, so since you've been on so many interviews promoting the wonderful work that you're doing, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often?
That's actually a good question. I'm trying to think of something other than, will you please write more books? But that seems a little self-serving. So, honestly, I'm really just happy to connect with people. I think part of why I write is that, it opens doors to conversations, and the experiences that people share when we talk about what I write about, it's really fantastic. I mean, summer camp is a unique experience for many people. whether you get to go to a sleepaway camp or whether you've done a camping trip for a weekend with a group that you're involved in. It's, almost everybody that I've run into has some sort of story that they share, whether good or bad. And for me, I think it's amazing. I love connecting with people. I love to hear what people have to say. I love hearing stories because for me, stories are the essence of my life. And so the more that I can come into contact with and understand people and hear from what their perspectives are and what their experiences are, for some reason I internalize it, and then eventually things come out into my work that I've been thinking about, or experiences or challenges that I've come across or that people I know have come across. And it's almost like the world is just material for thinking and for appreciation. And, you know, that's part of what drives me to do what I do. And so the connections that I've made through writing are different connections that I made when I was in corporate world, which are different than the connections that I made when I was in law school. So, everything in life, as I've mentioned, is additive. And the more we can add to our, collective memory banks, the better we are as people, the better we are at helping make positive change in the world, and ultimately making the world a better place for others to live in. So, not to sound too grandiose, but that's kind of where my head is at.
Ain't nothing wrong with thinking big, grandiose swag ahoy. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Don't want to think like a shrimp unless it's shrimp campy.
That's a good one. I don't know if you've been saving that the whole interview, but well placed.
Yeah. Yeah, that one wasn't in the holster for too long. I was like, oh, she's thinking of a new camp. It's like, oh, wait a second.
I'm coming back to you after this is done, and then we're going to just brainstorm for a few minutes.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. Sorry, dude. Just put a giant brain in the middle. Be like, yes, the brain is here. It's time for us to think. Oh, thinking. Overrated. Let me stop. I was
Not overrated.
Yeah. Yeah, too many folks probably have that thought process already. That's probably why things are the way they are. Like, yeah, thinking, who needs it? It's overrated. Like, no, we need to do that. No, we need to do that. Get back here. Turn that back on. Turn that brain back on.
Make a list. That's my approach.
That's right. And check it twice too.
Yes. Especially
Right
in the
indeed.
supermarket.
There you go. In the supermarket, especially in holiday season when it's Santa camp.
That's true, although there's usually no camp in the winter, but we could maybe come up with one. It could be like a futuristic space camp where there are no
Oh,
seasons. All right, we're on to something here.
there we go. Space camp. There we go.
Think that's
That's
already
right.
been done though, but
Oh, that's true. Oh well. Call it Elon Musk camp. We're going to Mars. Let me stop.
I'll have to enlist my son on that. He's very into space.
Good. That's right indeed. That's right. Probably make him a character into the book. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so speaking of characters in books, so my goodness, any trouble with writer's block? Is that one of those issues for you, or you're like, oh God, writer's block? No, I gotta fight to not put too many words in this book.
That's a good question because I thought about, what is writer's block? Because, when you sit down at a computer, in my case, and you have a blank page facing you, I think the hardest part is just getting started. So I don't think I've necessarily had writer's block, but I've definitely had the fear of the blank page block. And the solution that I've come up for that is just to keep writing and putting anything down on paper. I've read some really great books on how to be a writer, and some of the advice that I've read about in those books is to keep a journal, and keeping your creative faucets open, if you will, is a way to avoid getting that dreaded writer's block. And for me, my writing process is to obsessively outline. So, as a way to avoid getting stuck, I usually have a pretty good map of what I want to write about. So, before I sit down to really write a book, I'll have pages and pages of notes and different plots and different actions and different stories that I want to share. So, I just have to basically be a sorcerer and put it all together and have it come out in a cohesive, entertaining fashion. But certainly the thought of not having any ideas is a scary one. And I hope I never ever get to that point. But if so, I suppose that maybe it's time to take a break or rethink what I'm doing. But for now, thanks to my kids and my own childhood and the childhood of my good friends, I don't think I'll run out of material for a long time.
Yeah, can't spell mom without material. I mean, it's life, right? Dude.
Hmm.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. I love that it said writing faucet because it's like, yeah, you gotta turn it on. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Sometimes you may feel like a wonderful sorceress and casting the spells of words like a word magician, or maybe in this
Hmm.
case, a word plumber, making sure the words come out.
It's the only time that it's good to have a lot of water coming out of a faucet, and that having lived through different floods in the places I've lived, I definitely can attest that a water faucet of words is a better faucet to have that overflows than an actual faucet.
There you go. That's right. Keeping all the buckets right nearby too. That's right indeed. It's like, yeah, time to drink it in, man.
Yeah. I mean, I have lists of notes in so many different places. It's almost like I should probably have some sort of filing system for all my ideas, but everything at its time. So,
Yeah, I hear you. Comes with the territory. That's right indeed. So good old blank page itis. That's right
hmm.
indeed. Where the cursor's just blinking at you like, hey buddy, how you feeling?
The worst is when your computer's on auto shutdown and it turns off by itself because there's nothing going on and it's inactive. That's when I'm
um
like, lunch or bathroom break time.
there you go. That's right indeed. Break out the Kit Kat and then maybe break out the Snickers if you get hangry. That's
That's
right
right.
indeed. So you can be back to your normal self. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, speaking of candy, it's all about books being food for the mind as well. So, if your wonderful first book, Hurricamp, if it were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, my first answer is broccoli. I don't know why that came to mind, but it's a really good food. It's high in nutrition, and in this case, the story is high in entertainment. Um, it's green, and like the summer camp that it takes place in, there's lots of forest. So there's broccoli looks a little bit like trees. Perhaps there's a parallel there. Trying to come up with something that'll be clever and funny, but this is a question that definitely caught me by surprise. But I'm going to stick with broccoli because it's good for you and you can make it many different ways. And someday my younger son is going to like broccoli, whether he, I'm putting in his 10,000 hours every day, one stalk at a time.
There you go. In this case, many Stephs at a time.
Yeah. You really are excellent at coming up with different puns for names. So I applaud you for that, Dom.
I mean, hey, when there's so many buns in the world, you got to add some puns, right? Am I right?
Yeah. Do you have like a running list by your microphone, or is this all just coming off the top of your head?
Oh, definitely out of the head, definitely.
That's impressive. That is really impressive.
Yes, indeed. But hey, some of them are greatest hits. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Some of them just random greatest hits. It's like, oh, they said the trigger word. All right,
Yeah, that's how you
here
do
we
it.
go.
I think Winston Churchill was the master of comebacks, but the funny thing about him was that he already had them planned. So again, with the word that would trigger the comeback, he would be ready to use it. But he was a master at speech and debate because of it. I would never want to get into a verbal spar with him, even though our lifespans were quite different in timing. But my husband's similarly intelligent and sharp like that. So I guess I do have that opportunity in present time as well.
Yeah. You got a Brit head in your shoulders. You'll be all right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's right indeed. So heard that right, folks. Broccoli. That's right indeed. Broccoli.
Has
That's right
anyone
indeed.
ever given that as an answer?
One other guest, if I'm not mistaken. It's
No.
been
I
at
hope that was a
least.
cookbook.
No, it definitely wasn't. Like it.
Oh, wow. So much for
No,
my unique answer.
because I'm trying to remember who it was. Because I've at least asked 250 people this question so far. It's like, oh god, which one said it? But yeah, it was definitely. It was one of the ladies. I forgot which book it was, but yeah, it's like it was. So I was like, oh, broccoli. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Yeah, there we
Well,
go.
nothing else. The listeners will have a good laugh and wonder why broccoli of all the foods in the world.
Hey,
Why
that's
why
okay.
not? That's my answer. Why not?
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Some folks would be like, "Kind of question is that, bro?"
You know what? I'm gonna go back and think of a better answer if I'm ever asked this question again. And that next time around, it's gonna be an amazing answer. But I'm still sticking with broccoli.
No, don't worry. It's a good answer. You don't have to worry about nothing. Name of the game, no script. That's right, indeed. If you had a script, it's out the window. That's right,
Oh, that's
indeed.
for sure. That's for sure.
Yes, indeed. The good news is, didn't have to pull out the tree joke on people. Haven't had to do that in a long time, so that's good. That's good indeed. That's good indeed. So, my goodness, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you'll wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
Ooh, that is something I'll take a pause and think about for a moment. But you know what? I would tell myself, keep going, keep moving. I don't want to borrow the Nike slogan, but just do it does seem applicable. Having confidence in yourself, in this case, myself, I suppose, believing and trusting in your abilities and your desire and motivation will get you to where you want to be. And I would say the other thing that I would advise myself is don't get wrapped up in what a measure of success is traditionally, but measure success by what is valuable and important to you. And, it may not be selling a gazillion book copies, although that would be nice, or being at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. Again, that would be really nice. But knowing that you can do a great job, you can influence people, you can make people happy, and you can also make yourself happy in the process, that will be a job well done. So good luck, and I'll see you when you're many years older. 25-year-old self.
Yes, right indeed. Right indeed. It's always fun seeing some folks' reaction to that question because they always focus on the first half sometimes. It's like, yeah, but they forget to realize that their spouse will be a cradle robber depending on the
Oh
situation.
yeah, well, not me, not me. So I think I got married a few years after 25. So all is good on my hypothetical question.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. Just do it. That's right indeed. So avoid the white picket fence, y'all. It's not even the American dream anymore. I don't think. I think that's probably a dated reference at this point because it's like, dude, white picket fence. Dude, I'm just trying to pay some bills
Yeah, well, that's important too, but
and become a YouTuber.
that I would not give myself any piece of advice for. I've seen YouTube, my kids watch it incessantly, and I have to say, I do not enjoy it. The only thing I like about YouTube is how to fix things and how to do things. I find that to be the most useful aspect of YouTube. The other stuff I could do without, although, I have a soft spot for sports documentaries. So I'd watch that maybe if that were on, but otherwise, I'm looking at YouTube for how to fix things and how to do things.
Okay, so Racket Camp. Gotcha.
Putting a note on that one on my list.
That's right, indeed. School was out and there was a whole lot of racket going on because the kids were terrorizing the parents and they were sent to racket camp. That's right, indeed. They
Tennis
were busy.
racket camp would be good. I'd definitely
There
be
you,
interested in that.
there you go. That's right, indeed. That's right. Have a tennis champion train the kids. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. It'll be a whole lot of racket, a lot of tennis racket.
That's a good kind of racket, though.
Yeah, that's definitely is the good kind of racket. That's right, indeed. Especially if they find a random shoe rack out of nowhere. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And then, never mind, that's a bad one. I ain't gonna go down that road. So, so for those of you to keep up with all the stuff that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to do so?
You can find me at my website, www.stephphkatzovi.com. I'm on Instagram, same name, and Facebook, Steph Katzovi Lit. Or you could find me on LinkedIn using my Steph Katzovi in the search bar. But I think in this day and age, if you could spell it, you can find me. And even if you can't spell it, it'll come up something close. And I hope you do reach out because I love connecting with readers. I love connecting with prospective readers and anyone else that has a love of literature like I do. You can be assured that we'll connect and I'm sure we'll get along great. And if you like puns like Dom seems to, you know what? I think we're going to be even better friends because I adore puns. So this has been a lot of fun.
I got a test for you later if you got pen and paper. Yeah.
I'm a little nervous, so I'll just put a maybe question mark for that one.
Yep. Had a new staff member come into work and dropped a pun. She's like, "Oh, I love puns." And then less than 24 hours later, came back for her next shift, gave her one of my legendary secret sword puns. And she was like, "Oh God, I hate puns."
Well, I don't want that if it's going to destroy my love for puns. No, thank you.
Oh man, it was hilarious. It was like a grand opening, grand closing. It was so beautiful and hilarious. It was just a level of insanity of that pun.
I can only imagine.
So there you have it, folks. Head over to wonderful Steph Katzovi's goodness. It's right indeed. She is lit for a reason. She's kids lit, y'all. It's right indeed keeping your wonderful littles' brains lit with wonderful imagination and stories to keep them entertained and educated in certain parts, I imagine. So keeping it all edutained indeed. So following all of her wonderful social media handles and check out her website as well and cop some copies of her magical book. So that way a whole group of camels can come together and make a giant hump that looks like a tent so they can camp out in the wonderful desert, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, any parting word before we close up shop, Steph?
I don't want to ruin a good thing, so I will just thank you for being not only entertaining but hysterically funny. And this has been a real joy. And I hope to come back with book 2, Miss Communicamp, and our to be titled story about camp book number 3. And thank you so much for this great laugh.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.